Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Angela. If you weren't already aware, this is Reading Off My Shelf. This is my wish list, bit of a books out that have piqued my fancy from the non-fiction long list of the Women's Prize for 2025. This may well change because normally what happens last year, after I started watching the plot-alongs with Gemma, Jack and of course the late Alice, and people are talking about the books and you get more detail about them and people have reviewed them and things like that, I then, you know, think, oh gosh, I quite fancy that. But so these are my initial interests. So I will start with the book that is the one that I am going to purchase. I'm going to treat myself, and that is The Eagle and the Heart, The Tragedy of Richard II and Henry IV by Helen Castor. I've got a sheet of paper. So this is the story of obviously Henry IV and Richard II. They are first cousins. We are in the period of the 100-Year War. We had Henry, they both become king. They're both, you know, I can't recall who is the king first. I think it was Henry, and then Richard is helping him, or part of his government. But obviously they don't agree. And I suppose that they become in a bit of a war with each other. Henry does lead his sort of, when you look at the family tree, his tree goes down and eventually we get to kind of Margaret Beaufort, wasn't it? I nearly called her Beaumont there. Beaufort, who is Henry VII's mother. So we're getting into that, the War of the Roses. So we're just sort of, I think, pre-War of the Roses. So yes, that really interests me. I love political history. I have Helen Castor's other book, She-Wolves, and so yes, that is the one I really want to get, although it is quite expensive on Waterstones. We also have Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton. This one I'm intrigued. I heard Charlie talk about from Charlie Brooke Reads. I think it was one of her favourite books of last year, and this is about a lady who, I believe it's set in the pandemic, or starts in the pandemic, and she moves back from London to the countryside where she grew up, and her family are around about, and she finds a young hare, are they Livets, I think they're called, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's her, I believe, her raising the hare and their story. I think that'll be really interesting. I've heard really good reviews, and pre the list being announced I had actually heard of that one and I'd heard good things about it, so I do quite fancy that one. In fact, I think I'm going to try and pick that up quite quickly. I've also wrote down Embers of the Hands, Hidden History of the Viking Age by Eleanor Barracliff. So this is it, basically the sort of tagline is to meet the real Vikings. So we're not just going to be looking at the kings, the lords, the high emperors, you know, the main people, the powerful people, I suppose, and the Vikings. I think this looks at everyday, so presumably it's been researched by things that have been found, like combs and written letters. I think it said there was some things. So it's about the real people, about I suppose the people that lived in the, I say huts, but during the real Vikings, not just the hierarchy, I suppose that's the word I'm thinking of, you know, where, so you're going to look at, hopefully discover some of what really happened, or what they believe really happened during the Vikings. And of course the Vikings and their invasion of our country. So I do think that's history. Again, I love history. I love political history. I loved studying that when I was at school. We have A Story of a Heart by Rachel Clark. This one I think is probably going to literally rip the heart out. This is a story of two young boys, and I know it's the first one is a 9-year-old boy who is in, I believe is in a car accident, and unfortunately the worst is going to happen, and as his brain and his body starts to shut down, you know, because the heart is probably one of our first organs. It's the last to die. Your heart is the last to die, and it is a transplant surgery story. We have another boy who I believe has been in hospital for a year due to a virus of his heart, and presumably he receives this donor heart. So I'm going from what I can try and remember of the descriptions. Please forgive me if I'm wrong about any of these books. I think I've got the basic premise of them, but again, I think it'll be very, very interesting. It'll be to hear the story from both sides. I think it will be a box of tissue kind of book, I think, but to hear the story from both sides, and for it to be such young donor and receiver, like I say, I think you're going to have to be in a, I wouldn't say a certain mood, but you know, in a strong mood when you read that, because I do think it is going to be heartbreaking, that one. Then I have Agent Zoe, and this is a story of loss, love and the hidden order of life by Lulu Miller. Now this story intrigues me because it's about, we call her Zoe, but she's, I can't pronounce that Polish name, but she started, I think, for the Polish resistance, but she is parachuted certainly into Warsaw. She ends up, I know she does come to Britain, where I think she's trained as a spy. From the description I read the other day, I think she was then, when she went back to her own country, I believe she was imprisoned in a concentration camp. I could be wrong on that. So she was never celebrated, or at the time she wasn't celebrated for all of the work she did in the Second World War. She's and I believe that it's because she's not, as I say, when she comes back, she's not praised, and actually what happens, as I say, her family suffer. And as I say, I think obviously later years, possibly she has obviously been recognised, and is a hidden, well, it's a, does it say there, a hidden story. I think she was probably deliberately forgotten about. Again, I might be a bit sketchy on exactly what it's about, but I know certainly she came to Britain, she trained as a spy. She was a powerful, I wouldn't say powerful woman, but like, you know, an influential woman in the Second World War, and she did, like I say, for her own country in the war effort as well. I just think it'll be so interesting. Again, we're going back to, I do love political history, and I think she sounds like she was a remarkable woman. And then the final one I've got down here is The Peep Show, The Murders of 10 Rillington Place by Kate Summergate. I can't understand my own writing, do you know. So apparently this is set in London 1952, and in a house in Notting Hill, police discover bodies of 3 young women hidden in a wall. Another others under the floorboards, and human bones are in the garden. But they investigated a double murder 3 years before this, where they convicted a killer, and the killer had been hung. And the sort of ending line is, did they get the wrong man? I think, again, I like true crime and crime of the past. So I suppose in 1952, yeah, 1952. So, you know, police procedures then, and again, if we remember, these are all non-fiction. These are just, so again, I think that would be really interesting. And I suppose, is the book, I wouldn't say investigating, but obviously looking into the crimes, seeing if nowadays we would find, I'm just presuming this, I don't know, nowadays would we find a different conclusion? But again, it sounds interesting. So they're sort of 2, 4, 5, we've got 5, 6 books. So other ones I've quite like, you know, we had, what didn't we have one about China? What else have we had? There's one about the ocean. There's I think there's one, is there one about law and how women and how people are represented? I could be wrong, like I say. These were just the sort of 6 that initially have sparked my interest. So these are the ones I've looked more into than the other ones. And I thought I would just share it with you. Obviously, as we know, I'm not the fastest of readers, so therefore I am not going to get these books read before the prize is won. I might, you know, try and read some of them. I mean, some of them are proper chunky books, so I'll try and read some of them, and hopefully the ones I choose to read are shortlisted. With my luck, probably not, but I do think this year the prize, seeing it, I sparked more interest in the non-fiction than I did, or books sparked my interest more. And like I say, which I will try to link down below, they do the plod-alongs, which is Gemma and Charlie, where they discuss books. And quite often, as I say, what I said in the beginning of the video, what happens is books that I've not really thought about, or maybe thought, I'm not so interested in that, people start talking about them, and then I think, actually, do you know, that does actually sound quite good, and yeah, I think that would be interesting. And I think it's hard, isn't it, especially, as I say, when you're not a fast reader, where you're looking at all 16 books, and all books don't appeal to everybody. And you know, I think probably, like I've said that a few times there, that because some of them are sort of political history books, which is, I love that sort of genre, that's what sparked my initial interest. So if you have enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you don't already do so, consider doing so. It costs you nothing to do. Comment down below, which books do you fancy, maybe the books that I don't fancy, you know, maybe you've read some of the books. Give me your thoughts on them, please. No spoilers down below, because if anybody's reading the comments, we don't want to spoil it for anybody. If I haven't, you know, the other books on the list which I haven't gone through, you've read, you know, tell us why. Tell us why it's a good book. Sell the book to us. Sell the book to me, the other ones on the list. If you've enjoyed this video, why don't we give me an emoji of, I say, a hare, a rabbit, that sort of thing, because we've got, I'm just looking at the list there, we've got raising, hare, and I think that's probably quite a common symbol.